Welcome to the 25th Hour podcast, where successful business owners share their strategies on how they stay in control of your day. I'm your host, Lisa Curley Malice, and today's guest is Jamie Peltz, who is a problem solver. And she looks at everyday common problems from a different perspective. After 17 years of working for a corporation, she found herself unemployed in 2007. And she used this as an opportunity to follow her dream to become an entrepreneur. And over the years, she and her team have received multiple patents and they've been able to commercialize a few of their inventions, two of which I love and use personally. Listen in as Jamie shares a revelation she had when it came to her time and then the steps she took afterwards to figure out how to be much more effective and productive. Hey, Jamie, I'm super excited that you are able to be a guest on the 25th Hour podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Totally my pleasure. My question to start us off today is all about time. What is it that you do to stay in control of your day and get the things that are important to you done? Because I know that you do, and I know you've put a lot of thought and time into perfecting how your workflow and how things go. So share some of your tips with us.
So, about 2 years ago, I went down this path of kind of analyzing my time. I wanted to kind of understand where I was spending my time and what I was doing because I felt like I wasn't getting anything done. And what I found, what I thought I was doing was not quite what I was actually doing. And I actually went and realigned it. And again, I created spreadsheets, which is my nature. And I'm like, all right, there's these buckets in your life, kind of like there's family, there's work, there's exercise. How much time should you be devoting to each one of these buckets? And you need to kind of get those back in balance. And I start from that of kind of like allocating the hours to those particular areas. The other big shift I made at that time was I really started understanding when I was productive. I found Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, I was a lot more productive. So why should I schedule a doctor's appointment on a Monday when those are good working days for me? So now I schedule all doctor's appointments on Thursdays. And I go into the day actually knowing that I may not get stuff done, but it's okay because it's like, I'll call it, it's a non-productive day, but these are things you have to do in your particular life. So those are some of the things that I've started. The other thing I've really tried to make a habit of is planning my week out on Sundays. And so I lay the week out kind of on a grid and understand what projects I'm working on when, allocating time, making sure for exercise, making sure, like even during COVID, all of a sudden making dinner started taking up a whole lot more of time than it used to.
Oh my gosh, I hear you. My sister sent us a couple of weeks of HelloFresh. And I was like, I have never used so many pots and pans to cook one meal in my life. Like they say 10-minute prep time, like that's a lie.
Yeah.
It's like an hour prep time.
Yeah. So, but that's what you don't realize, these kind of time, I don't want to call them time sucks, like where hours of your day just disappear. They're important, but they just disappear. Another habit I've tried to get into is putting less on my list. I think we all try to put like 20 items on our list. Well, when you start looking at how many hours each project takes, you're like, hey, there's not enough hours in this day to accomplish what I just set out to do. So it's kind of setting it up for success. So if I have 3 projects on there and I get them done and I can cross them off, I feel like I've won the day.
I love that idea, won the day. So let's go back to the time tracking.
Right.
If you remember, what was the surprise for you? Like you said, you were spending time in areas and not in areas that you thought. Was there a big surprise or an aha moment?
I don't know if it was a surprise, but it's like the intuitive. So for instance, let's just take a meeting, pre-COVID, a meeting you have on your calendar for an hour. that meeting is actually 2 hours because there's drive time to get to that meeting and there's drive time afterwards. And so what I thought was an hour really took up 2 hours of my day. Um, or just project management. So I thought something was going to take me 30 minutes to do. It really was taking me 2 hours to do this. And so when you start writing it down, you can see, and then you have to leave room in there for fun. I mean, like, so and how many hours a day do you want to schedule, right? So how does it all fit in? One of the big changes, I moved my wake up time up a half hour. I was like, I used to get up like at 6:30. I'm like, I might need to push this till 6 o'clock in order to make sure I get my exercise in before the day starts and things like that. So it's just, when you write things down, you actually see things and you can see where the holes are. So.
Yeah. Is something about data that so helps make decisions.
Yeah, I always say I'm a big data person, and again, if you understand the numbers, you kind of understand. And so people look at time and I don't know if they actually put the data to it. So, I mean, I had gone down this whole path of like, oh my God, there's how many hours and how many am I using them, and I even wanted to create an app for it, but haven't gotten there yet. So.
But when you do, let me know.
I will.
because right now I do it all pencil and paper with my clients. We do a 168. So lay out your week.
Yep.
How many hours you want to spend here, how many hours you want to spend there, and then track it to see how close what you want matches reality. And so an app would be way better than the pencil and paper method we're doing right now. So you talked about knowing when you're the days of the week that you're more productive. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I have a couple questions around this. So my first one is, what happens if someone from the outside is pushing to get into your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday that you would rather put on a Thursday, Friday?
And that's why I do. So important things, I don't mind doing kind of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So there are people that are projects that I need to work with people earlier in the week. But if someone wants to, if they want to just have coffee, okay, I try and push it to a Thursday because I know it's just a better day for me. And most people, I'll go, if they're not clients, if people are just trying to network with you, you just let them know your availability, so you don't give them those days, so you don't say I'm available all week. You're like, these are the days and times that I'm available. And usually you can find something that fits within there. If I've decided it's a priority that I really need to get to this person, of course, I'm going to move it earlier in the week. But kind of general networking and things like that, I try and do later in the week. It just works better for me. Other people start their week slow and they build up momentum, and Thursdays and Fridays are better. I find Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays are better for me.
Well, because I find with my clients, a lot of times they'll set the boundary, and as soon as they set it, there's pushback.
Right.
And so then they feel mean, or they feel, like they're not accommodating, and then they let it go. When the reality is, when you share what's important or share what you have available, people fall into that. They just need to know.
Yeah.
They, for the most part, will fall into your schedule exactly how you want them.
Right. And that's right. If you give them a couple different options, so if you only say I can do Thursday at 10 o'clock, that's kind of like, okay. But if you give them some options, over a couple week period, again, and usually they're not critical. Again, critical things, have different priorities to it, basic kind of meet and greets, kind of there needs to work around your schedule.
Now, you found that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're most productive. Have you found that there's certain times of the day where you're more productive doing certain activities?
I have, and that's interesting because I used to not consider myself a morning person, but I'm finding mornings are more productive. Usually right about 3 o'clock. I hate to call it like cleanup mode. You're kind of like looking what happened during the day, emails to catch up on, not like thinking things. It seems to be I hit this, I don't want to say hit a wall, but my rhythm just has changed over the years. Where I would say earlier it used to be like later in the day. Now I think it's much more in the beginning of the day.
Okay.
So,
And, and our energy and focus does go in like a sine
yeah,
curve. And so your energy focus is high now in the morning, which makes
right,
sense that it would be low
right,
in the afternoon. And then that's the time to do exactly what you're doing,
yeah,
your email, things like that.
right,
Like I have clients who are like, well, I just need to get in and do my email first thing in the morning,
right,
which is fine if that's not their productive time.
right.
But if it is, you're just flitting away
Yep,
all
you're
that.
just, then it's like 11 o'clock and you're like, oh my God, it's lunchtime.
Right? What have I gotten done today? Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Um, so any special things you do when you plan on Sundays? Like what are you laying out in your calendar? What are you looking at?
So I'm looking, I don't know if it's right or wrong. First, I always look at meetings scheduled. Okay, so we do have things that are already scheduled on there. So I usually kind of put those down first because those are kind of commitments I've already made to myself or other people. Okay. And then from there, I look for like blocks of time. So I'm like, oh, this is like a 3 hour window versus here I only have an hour. So what are the things to put in there? And I've tried to, and again, this is taking years to like really think through, putting the most important things first, and you learned that years ago, like put the most important things first, so I try and look and say, okay, what's the most important and what's going to drive my business, and try and put those things first, or even things that have deadlines around them. And then from there, um, fill in kind of the extra stuff, and I've also found there's certain repetitive things within our day, right? So there's certain, I don't want to call it certain reports or certain things that I do every day. And I'm like, you know what? Just get rid of those in the morning. Like first thing when I get up, I do them and just kind of check them off because they're the same thing. I don't have to recreate the wheel every day and get those mundane tasks kind of off your list and move them on and get into, like I said, I'm looking for big chunks of like project work, where
Right.
I can sit for a while and focus on something.
So you mentioned commitments to yourself and others
Right,
in that are in your calendar.
right,
What does a commitment to, because I everyone gets the idea of a commitment to someone else.
right.
What does a commitment to yourself look like in your calendar?
So probably the biggest thing is I always say probably exercise. Okay. I have found for myself, exercise first thing in the morning is the best way to start the day for me. And so that is probably a big commitment. It might sound silly, like, I'll call it hair appointments, again, beauty, I don't want to call beauty treatments, so making sure I get my hair cut, that would probably be a commitment to myself, because I disappear for a couple hours to go take care of stuff. So that would probably be the big thing in there. And honestly, I keep talking COVID. I mean, I was thinking I've cooked more in the past year, you know, but I laugh. I've actually gotten really good. Like, like every piece of chicken is done now, as opposed to I'm like, oh, be careful. There might be some pink pieces in there.
It's like you eat at my house, Jamie. We have that conversation. They're either pink, like my husband will come in and he'll say, I don't want to eat pink chicken. And I'll say,
Right,
no one wants to eat pink chicken. Like you don't have to say that every time we cook chicken. And so ours is the other end. We're
right,
so worried it's going to be pink that it's like
right.
dry hockey pucks. But we are also getting better.
So, but that's where I've kind of, I don't want to say commitment to my family, that I've made sure that we've had meals, for gosh, 365 days at this point. And so those are just some things that I've kind of put in. And then I've joined some, I want to call clubs, again, you can even go to NABO, again, so NABO stuff, is on my calendar. So I usually make sure that I attend both meetings each month. I'm in some other groups, and so I make sure that they're on my calendar so I can attend their kind of virtual meetings and things like that. And so that's what I would say are kind of like commitments to myself, that things I like to do in a way of meeting new people and new challenges and things like that, that I make sure those things are on my calendar as well.
And often I think when we're planning our week, we forget about those commitments to ourselves.
Right.
and all the other stuff kind of goes in, and then you're like, oh, I don't have time for that this week, but it's no big deal, I'll do it next.
Right.
And then next turns into the next, which turns into the next.
Which I was going to say, for me, one of the interesting things on that is, since I like all those things, that was one of the areas like, oh my God, I'm attending too many, like, I call it virtual meetings or networking or entertainment things. I'm like, I'm taking all these classes, I'm doing all these things. I'm like, okay, you got to cut some of that stuff out while you love doing it. You got to kind of reel it back in and make sure the ones that you're doing are important to you and your business and stuff like that. So that was one of the areas I'll go where I found like, oh my God, look at all the time I'm spending these things, and they're good things and I enjoyed them. That's why I was doing them, but they also took me away from other things.
Right. So, and like, I think of that often as filling your calendar with good, which pushes out the room for the great.
Right.
And so what criteria, if any, have you come up with to help you like move off the things that are, or not say yes to the things that are good,
Right.
and make sure that the things on there are great?
So I look at one is, am I still gaining value from this organization or this group? As long as I feel like I'm still gaining value and it's helping me move forward, then I put it in the great area. If I'm not gaining value from it, so like I said, there's a couple groups that always offer a variety of classes. And I'm like, not really important right now. Yeah, it would be really fun to sit in this for 6 weeks, but I'm not sure it's going to add any more value to your knowledge base or help you do what you're working on right now. And so it's like I said, is it adding value to kind of where I am in my life right now? And if it's continually adding value, then I would continue to do it. So.
Okay. And because that's a hard thing. And I know how much you get jazzed by learning.
Yeah.
And, like you'll say, yeah, I took this class and I learned this, and I took this class and here was this social media stuff and here was this other stuff. And so I know how much you love to learn. So it has to be difficult to roll that back and say, yeah, it's a really cool idea, but no, not now.
Right. Again, it has been, and I keep asking myself, I'm like, all right, we're in the middle of kind of a product launch right now. And I'm like, you don't need to know anything else about social media. You don't. It's like, my focus is on, manufacturing and I'll call it, fundraising type things. And that's kind of where the focus was. So when things come across in those areas, I'm more interested in, brand building, social media. Right now, it's like, no, don't need it. It's not, it's not going to make a difference. So
this is perfect transition point. Right. Tell us about what you do, your business, what you're launching right now. Right. Share the whole story with us, Jamie.
Okay. So again, over the years, I now call myself an inventor because I've invented a couple products. And so the first product is called Sure Swatch. And what Sure Swatch is a temporary paint swatch, so you can see your paint colors on the wall without actually painting your wall. Most people struggle with deciding on their paint color, and they wind up with all those ugly like blotches all over their wall, and then they're stuck with them there. The Sure Swatch is like a peel and stick sticker that you kind of put up and you can peel down off of it. And we're in Home Depot and Ace Hardware and places like that. And we've been on the market for 8 years already. The impetus behind becoming an inventor was I go to the last economic downturn in 2007. I found myself unemployed after a career of 17 years. Again, I always said, I always knew everything that was going on in the company until it was time for me to leave. And so, like many people, I probably reinvented myself, but I think it's something that I always wanted to do. So I don't know if it was a reinvention because you're changing so many things, but I think it was in me always. The second product is called Forget Me Spot Stain Patch Spot Remover. And it's a peel and press patch with the stain remover. And so at the end of the day, if you get a spot, you put this patch on, it starts pre-treating, you just throw it in the hamper, and the whole thing dissolves in the wash. Um, we're in the process of working on a retail launch. I'm hoping for the spring. The interesting thing on this is, I'll give you kind of, I don't want to say COVID lessons, was during COVID, we had the opportunity to present virtually to a retailer, and they were doing a diversity summit, and we presented, had a 10-minute meeting, and they want the product. And so it's challenging. Like I said, the retail side is easy, but it's challenging, and we're making a product and scaling it pretty quickly. And it's using all my available resources and knowledge and network that I've created over the years. And I think the thing is, you don't realize, just by working incrementally at something every day, when the opportunity comes, you're kind of like there and ready to go. And that's where, even during COVID, again, didn't stop looking for opportunities, and found this opportunity. And now, like I said, we're working for a retail launch and stuff like that. So it's really exciting. It's something that's been in the works for some time, and it's really kind of cool. So
Yeah. Congratulations.
thanks.
It's like those stories of overnight success that took 8 years to get to.
Exactly. It's like, one of my favorite lines is that, we don't know the end of the story. It's kind of like all the stuff in the middle that sometimes sucks. We just don't know what the end looks like yet. And so each chapter kind of builds on the next. So yeah, people will be like, oh my God, look at her, she just did this. No, this is years in the making. So
yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And I think you said 4. You've created 4 products?
No, two. I would say I have other patents on stuff that aren't my stuff, but there's 2 products that I have done personally, that I have patents for. And then, like I said, I did, ironically, back early, about a year ago, was starting to work on this whole time management type thing. And it's kind of still always sitting in the back of my mind. I think once I get past this thing, is that I might delve back into it. So it's kind of like it's kind of like solving every day. I always say I solve everyday problems, so it's like I create things that I want,
Right.
And so when I look at each one of these inventions, it was something that I personally struggled with. Like the stain patch was, I was looking for stains on my children's clothing. And I'm like, I have no idea if a stain is here or not, because the person who is doing the laundry is not necessarily the one who created the stain.
I like how you phrase that so nicely.
Yeah. And so,
well, and I had one, and so I happened to have it. I don't know how I did this. It was magical, but it was in my suitcase.
okay.
And when I was out of town,
Yeah.
got a stain. And so I was like, oh my gosh, look at this. There's a stain. There's the patch. And I popped it on, because otherwise I would have gotten home, totally forgot about it. And then there would have been a wasted shirt.
Yep.
So I happen to love. I have not yet used your Sure Swatch, but I love the stain remover. So very much.
Yeah.
I love listening to you. I love listening to your story, and I'm super psyched about your retail launch. That is, and again, it goes incremental change every single day. Just, have you read the book Atomic Habits?
I have not.
James Clear, and it talks about 1% change.
Okay.
Over time, and just 1%, 1%. And it's exactly what you're saying right now with where you're coming with this launch.
Right.
So you've shared how you've done all these things with time.
Right.
And your passion with your business. And I'm wondering, when it's all said and done and everything goes according to plan, exactly how you want it, and you create what we call the 25th hour, that extra hour in the day, how do you like to spend it?
Well, it's interesting, because we've developed new, I think, hobbies over the past year.
Someone who follows you on Facebook? Yes, you have.
So, you know what? I've always made time, I'll call it, for my family. So I'll give you things, one is we've started hiking, which I really am surprised how much I like because I'm not a cold weather person, but I love getting out there in the, I don't want to say it's cold because once you get into it, it's not cold anymore. Um, I've always made sure like I have, I don't want to call it date nights with my kids, finding kind of special time to do things with them. You know, Weekends are pretty laid back, so we try and find time to spend with each other. My favorite thing to do out of everything used to be to like go to a movie, because I found that a movie for 2 hours, no one bothers you. I can sit there and eat popcorn. I don't check my phone. And I really do that. So I do try and find variety of different things to kind of fill the days, and I would say I'm not a big shopper, like that's not my thing. So just probably spending time with my family and kind of doing, we do some kooky things.
Well, and out of all the kooky things that you've done, do you have a favorite?
Oh gosh, the one again going back. So during all this, my one daughter graduated from college, and my older daughter, who's very creative, turned our basement into I want to say like a bunch of different bars from her college that she went to. And we all kind of, instead of, if you were in college, you would have done a pub crawl. So we kind of created one in our basement to kind of recreate her, her graduation and stuff like that. We've done stuff like that. Then as simple as we made like succulents, like little paper plants. So again, and my kids are old, so I'll start with they're not like under 18. They're 22, 26, and 29. And so the five of us were down there creating like paper plants in jars, and we used whatever we had around the house in order to do them. So like a crafty type project. That was fun. And so, yeah, we're planning right now like a St. Patrick's Day thing on Saturday. And so they have different games for us to play, and we'll make the corned beef and cabbage, we'll decorate. So we try and create these like theme nights. And when my oldest was here, it was easier because she was always doing it. But then one of the things we then tried to do when she went back to LA was kind of keep these as a monthly thing to do. And that's the kind of I think the beauty of Zoom was that we then created a way for all of us to do stuff together like once a month, even though she lives, thousands of miles away. And so things that we kind of continue on. So, just trying to stay connected with them and, staying
I
important.
can't wait to see the St. Patty's Day pictures. It was very cool. I was like, oh, you guys are way creative. I
Right.
think one of my favorite things that you have done is the rose ceremony for the paint swatches. Like that was way creative. That was, oh my God, that was awesome. So speaking of paint swatches, I know that you have an offer to our listeners. Go share a little bit about Sure Swatch and your
So
very
anyway,
generous gift.
Right. So anyway, so Sure Swatches, we typically sell them 3 Sure Swatches in a pack. The reason for 3 is most people test 3 to 5 samples. And so as part of this, what we thought we could do is give away 10 3-packs to people who were interested in that offer.
And how do they email you? How do they?
I think the best bet would probably be to email me. That would be the best way to do that.
Perfect. Oh, yay. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all of your journey, your journey with time and how you recognized you weren't as productive as you wanted to be.
Right.
And dug into why.
Right.
And then made adjustments along the way.
Right.
I so appreciate you being here today and your time, and take advantage of her Sure Swatch offer. I'm telling you right now, take advantage.
Yep.
So thanks, Jamie.
Thank you for having me.
Which of the strategies that Jamie shared are you going to implement in your own life and business? She gave us a ton of really great info, and I'm curious, what's resonated most with you? Shoot an email over to hi@impactivestrategies.com and let us know, what are you taking from today's podcast and putting into action? And if you find yourself similar to Jamie, where you know you're not being as productive as you like, then the Fix Your Productivity Bottleneck in 28 Days is the program for you, because we'll dig in, find your bottleneck, and give you strategies on how to overcome that bottleneck. Registration is now open. Go to impactivestrategies.com and go to the services page, and you will find everything you need to know to jump in and register for Fix Your Productivity Bottleneck in 28 Days.